2023 Minnesota Vikings season update. Let us talk about positive happenings for the Minnesota Vikings football team today. NFL player saves man from burning car, right place at right time. Minnesota Vikings KJ Osborn was able to help rescue a motorist in Austin, Texas after he was involved in a violent crash on his way to practice. Right place, right time, Osborn, 25, tweeted Monday, along with photos of Sunday's crash, other rescuers involved and the damaged vehicle. In a statement accompanying the photos, Osborn wrote, "Most of the time people say wrong place, wrong time. But I believe God has put me, us, in the right place at the right time." Osborn went on to say that he and the absolute three heroes worked together to save the man's life, pulling him out of a burning car following a fatal crash, a situation that I could never have imagined. Partially in a million years. I picked him up, he was bleeding, his blood was all over me, Osborn told CBS Minnesota. I moved about 10 to 15 meters to get out of the car in case it exploded. Eventually, fire trucks, ambulances, police, etc. came. And they thanked us for saving this man's life. If it wasn't for us, he would definitely have been burned in this car. A wide receiver, Osborn was named to the team in 2020 after playing at the University at Buffalo and the University of Miami. Last season he caught 60 passes and scored 6 touchdowns. The Minnesota Vikings roster could change a lot this season. The departure of Kendrick on Monday could be the start of major changes for the Minnesota Vikings. The current situation, the Vikings are losing big paychecks as they attempt to cut salaries ahead of next season. At the start of the season, they need to cut at least $23 million to fall below their maximum salary. Why it matters, Kendrick and several other players who may have been around have been the face of the franchise for the past 7 to 10 years. Increase, these are other players you can let go, trade, or ask for a pay cut. Adam Thielen, the Minnesota wide receiver, turns 33 in August after a lackluster season. The cap is $20 million next year, according to Spotrac. Harrison Smith, the 6-time Pro Bowl champion, is still in great shape, but he's 34 and will hit the $19 million cap next year. Darius Smith, the passer, had a very good 9 games last year but suffered injury problems towards the end of the season. He put the house in Egan up for sale. Vikings could save $12 million by turning off this feature. Dalvin Cook and CJ Ham, Coach Kevin O'Connell is happy to pass and doesn't want to spend too much money on cornerbacks. Cutting this duo could save the Vikings $11 million. Between, the Vikings went 13-4 last season, but won nearly every game by a narrow margin. They couldn't believe this would happen again, especially with an aging lineup. General Manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah will have to find a way to rejuvenate with limited funds and draft picks. Plot, another big question is what Adofo-Mensah will do with Kirk Cousins, who only has 1 year left on his contract. Cousins starts 46-33-1 for the Vikings, but has only 1 playoff win in 5 seasons and will turn 35 in August. Will Adofo-Mensah extend this midfield role for a few more seasons, or will he let him play out of contract and leave? My thoughts are bubbling over. If you cut or trade Darius Smith, Cook, and Ham, you must tell Thielen to take a pay cut. Otherwise we will release him. Please delay parts of this release to save Dalvin Tomlinson and update Danielle Hunter. Vikings get the highest rating angle in the latest Houston Chronicle simulator draft. The Minnesota Vikings enter the 2023 season with a long list of needs, especially on the defensive side of the ball. While the team's attack has proven to be a strong force, their defense has struggled throughout the 2022 season, placing near the bottom of the league in several key categories. As a result, the Vikings will likely focus on improving their defense this season. On Monday, Brooks Kubena of the Houston Chronicle published his fictional draft and helped the Vikings begin rebuilding this defense by casting Penn State fullback Joey Porter Jr. Porter Jr. was one of the highest ranked corners in this draft class and was mocked by the teams from the very first round. If the Vikings can get him, they'll get an aggressive and athletic fullback. Porter Jr. He constantly uses his physical form to intimidate opponents' long receivers while possessing a very high level of awareness and ability to play with the ball. Fans will be thrilled if that happens, as Porter Jr. is perfect on Brian Flores' defense. And finally, a year after the days of Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, there are still many questions about working in midfield. Kirk Cousins has been the starting quarterback for the past 5 seasons, but those seasons have been marred by mediocrity and off-season issues. Even more so this year, as Cousins enters the final season of his contract and his 35th long-term extension seems difficult given his age. His no-trade clause prevents the Minnesota Vikings from moving him without the quarterback's permission. CBS Sports wanted to explore various commercial offers across the league and suggested that the Vikings send their Cousins to the San Francisco 49ers for 2023 third and second round picks. 2024. It will be very interesting on many levels. Shanahan's relationship with Cousins has been known for a long time. The 49ers pursued him aggressively in 2018, but instead traded Jimmy Garoppolo at the trade deadline. The Cousin Awards are very similar to recent commercial awards received by Alex Smith, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan. They're all in a different situation than their cousins, but it seems fair in terms of what the Vikings will get in return. Will the Vikings accept? Maybe, but in the meantime, they should be able to replace their cousins, which I don't think they're currently doing. They could sign Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston in a first or second round pick and development, but that would represent a huge step forward in this year's NFL draft. There's currently no indication that the Vikings or Kirk Cousins are prepared to do so, but anything could happen before Cousins gets his $20 million prize money. March 17th.